Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. In this video, we will continue with creating essay tests or constructing subjective tests. So earlier we have talked about what are the guidelines to create the STEM, and for this video, we will talk about or we'll discuss the guidelines for writing the options. So there are also 9 guidelines. So we go to the first. The first option, or we can say the first guideline, is the options must contain only one correct answer. Why is that? An item that has more than one answer in the options violates the psychometric requirements for achievement testing, hence, it will be affecting the overall reliability and validity of the test. So that's the first. Second, the options should not contain repeated phrases, because as we have talked about in the STEM, a lot of phrases in option will confuse, or maybe you can say will takes a lot of students' time. So we do not want them to use a lot of time in understanding the options. We wanted them to understand the questions thoroughly, and then they will be straightly answering or choosing or selecting the option. So that's why it is not recommendable. It is not supposed to be repeated phrases in the options. And then the third guideline would be the distractors or files should not be tricky or trivial. Tricky means difficult, it is hard, it is complicated, and it is complex. Whereby trivial is having little value or importance. There's not much importance of that distractors. So such distractor take away the qualities of the test, thus rendering the test unsuitable to be used as a means to differentiate between the knowledgeable students as well as the unknowledgeable student. So for example, the trivial distractors. So the main circuit board in a personal computer is called what? Brother board, father board, mother board, sister board. So the students can easily know it is mother board because there is no brother board, father board, or sister board in circuit board or in computer. Am I right? And then the tricky distractor, for example, the main circuit board in a personal computer is called what? The chassis, the system board, the system unit, or maybe the motherboard. So there is a bit complicated options with system board, motherboard, system unit, chassis, and whatnot. So distractors or fall should not be tricky or trivial. It should be clear. And then the fourth guideline to be the option should be grammatically consistent with the STEM. The rule of thumb for this is that when the correct answer is combined with the STEM, the result should be a fully grammatical sentence. If the options having error in grammars, and then the questions will be combined with the option which is not grammatically or fully grammatically sentenced. That's why it should be consistent with the STEM. The grammar should be consistent because it will be making a complete sentences. So the STEM should be correct as well as the grammars in the options. For example, poor options would be the recall of factual information can best be measured with closed passage, short answer. When students are given essay questions, administered performance test, there is no some kind of consistent options as well, consistent with STEM. So to improve this kind of options or STEM, the recalls of factual information can be best measured with closed passages, short answer items, essays, questions, as well as performance tests. So it is improved. And then the fifth guideline is the option should be parallel in form. So they must be derived from same content domain so as to reduce the probabilities of the unknowledgeable students making a correct guess. So this contributes to the validity of the test. So it's very important to have a very parallel or is the same option, because usually students will just know or can predict that the answer would be the longest options, which is that's why we shouldn't be having a very long, or we can say the options A, B, C, D, or E should be the same length. So for example, the poor questions would be, what is the most important reason why examination questions must be vetted before they are administered? And then first, to ensure that the questions are valid, establish standard procedure in testing, to get points for promotions, and because the rector says so. So it's very poor, as in it is not really parallel in form. And then how to improve these poor questions or options would be, what is the most important reason why examinations questions must be vetted before they are administered? First, to ensure that the questions are valid, to establish standard procedure in testing, to adhere to examination policy, and to increase the instructor's accountability. So parallel inform here means the options have all the to ensure, to establish, to adhere, to increase, as compared to the first um, example. It did not, there is no standard form or parallel inform. And the sixth guideline is the option should be of similar length, which is similar like before. So this is to prevent students from thinking that the lengthiest option is most likely the correct answer. So it should be similar length. And the seventh guideline, the option should not contain all of the above or none of the above as one of the alternative, because these phrases usually appear in multiple choice tests and are often overly used, especially when the test developer has run out of good distractors to think of. That's why they come up with the all of the above. And then when all of the above is used, the student only has to find two correct or incorrect options and ignore the third one in order to hit the correct answer. So they will not be understanding all of the options or the questions, because all of the above is the option. And then some items writers use none of the above only when no clearly correct option is presented. So however, students catch on to this practice and guess that none of the above is the correct answer without knowledge of the content being measured. And consequently, we can say that none of the above is very useful if it is to be the correct answer or to the key. So research has found that placing none of the above as a response in the options lower test reliability. So, and then the next, which is the eight, would be arrange the options in alphabetical order to establish a randomized pattern of answer. So this is to make sure that the letters that represent the correct answers are well distributed and not clustered mostly around a particular letter. So it should be alphabetical order, and in order to make it standard, because the nature of human being is to have a standard kinds of apa ni, arrangements and whatnot. So that's why when it comes to these questions, we should be standardized everything. So for example, the acceptable question, the recall of factual information can best be measured with what clues, passages, short answer items, essay question, and performance test. But it can be better by first close passages and then essays questions and then performance tests and short answer item alphabetically. And the last but not least would be the task developer must make sure that each item is independent of other items in the task. For example, getting the correct answer on item number 7 does not depend on item number 6, because maybe it's risky if we some kind of having a continual kinds of questions from 6 questions to 7 questions. So we must make sure that it is independent. This question do not depend on the earlier questions or the next questions. So that's it for for this video for constructing ACES items, and thank you very much.